All right, guys, so we're going to watch one of the videos from my Blender Octane 101 guide. It's a full course that I'm basically making to teach you how to use Blender Octane. For those of the members who are in the community, they get immediate access to videos as they're being released because I'm building the course as we go. So if you're interested in that, check the link down below. All right, next we're going to look at how to set up Octane's daylight environment. If we come here, we go from our object shader, and we can click down and go to world. I'm going to go ahead and click on new. We got our texture environment. We'll get to that one shortly, but I want to show you another one. If we come Shift A and you come into environment, daylight environment, we'll go ahead and plug that in. By default, this is what Octane will set you up stock with, and you will have your daylight environment. It's pretty much what it says like here. It's basically simulating daylight. We have our sun direction where we can control this, and you can see our sun and then our setting sun, and then again, a rising sun. You've got this sky turbulent, blah, 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 blah. But it kind of like adds in a little bit of like, you know, I would say to me, it feels like we're adding in some atmosphere a little bit. It feels like it, like it's kind of an overcast day. We've kind of got like that setting there. Then you have your overall power. We can crank that up, making it way more or less. Then you have your sun intensity. If I find, let me quickly look at and see if we can find the sun here. There is our sun. So we have our sun intensity. Again, bringing that down, bringing that up. Then we also have, we can change our sky system. For those of you who are familiar with cycles and Nishida, we can come here. We have the Octane daylight model, and we have a couple of other daylight models here. One I can't pronounce, but you can clearly see that looks a lot different. Then we have the Nishida daylight system, and there it is. And then we also have this other one down here. So if you guys like a particular daylight system, they are there. I'm just going to go back to the default Octane one. Sky color, pretty much self-explanatory. We can change the color of the sky, and also sunset color. We can also change the color of the setting sun. We've also got sun size. You can make it bigger or smaller. Ground color, again, we can change the color of our ground. The ground start angle, where the ground is starting, and then the ground blend angle, blending where the ground meets. So you can also play with that. And then again, we can add in a sky texture right here. You can add in a sky texture, which this accepts, you know, image maps, things like that. Then we have a couple of settings here that I don't really change. You can leave those if you do know what they are. You can change them. Medium, this is where we can add in, if we want to add in a scattering system or a fog, some type of fog system, we can do that there. And then medium light pass mask, again, a little bit more advanced settings there, which I won't get into at the moment. Use in post volume, again, some more advanced settings. And then here's our visible backgrounds for our sun and our world settings here. So this is just a quick overlook of just the sun node itself here, the daylight system, which is kind of useful if you're into that and you want to use that. I particularly like to use a lot of HDRIs, but there are times where I do want this to work, or I do play with this one here. So that's our daylight system. Let's get into the next one and we'll look at the texture environment. All right, guys, we're going to take a look at the texture emission and the Blackbody emission. So first scene is completely dark. I'm going to come in here, Shift A, and we're going to go down to mesh. We're going to go to light, and we're going to bring in a Octane area light. And then I'm going to go ahead and GZ this up. There it is. We're going to go ahead and scale that up and it gets brighter there. So here is our area light. And when you plug it in by default, if you come over here, you'll see we have a texture emission. Texture emission is basically like what it says. Again, this can be added to any type of material. Like literally you see here's our diffuse material. And again, here is the emission slot, Octane emission, Blackbody, texture emission, emission switch. So, okay, that's basically, you're just really adding this node into a diffuse material. I have the texture where I can come in here and change the colors and things like that. I do have the glare post-processing happening there. So there is our color where we can change the color of that. Then we also have our power, and here is the power, and it goes in wattage, right? So that's 1 watt, 100 watts, 500 watts, 10,000 watts. Then we have surface brightness. Now, this is where I think these type of things confuse people a little bit here. So off the back, we have surface bright. If I check it, you notice the light slightly dimmed. And then if I also scroll and shift it, now it's not necessarily getting brighter, but it's just keeping its surface brightness. Now, even though it looks bigger, it looks brighter, but it's just because the light is a bigger source. Versus if I take this back off, now you see things got slightly a little bit brighter. And then if I go here, it's getting brighter, right? And then completely off when it's reversing. So the surface brightness, it's basically controlling the output of the light based. So that's kind of confusing for a minute. But if it's enabled right now, it doesn't matter the size of this light. It's going to keep the consistent 100 watts. Basically, that's what it means. So this thing is going to still be 100 watts. If I scale it up bigger, this still is going to be put out to 100 watts. Versus if I turn it off, it's actually a little bit different. The wattage is slightly changing based on the size of the actual geometry. Then taking a look at our keep instance power. Now the keep instance power is pretty much what it says. Like when you're instancing this light, for what will be a good scenario? Okay, this will be a good scenario. If we're instancing this light, right? Each light we instant basically gets slightly darker. Think about it like if we were making a strand of Christmas lights. We want each instance of those Christmas lights to keep their power, to maintain the exact same power, no matter how many of these things we have. We don't want the power to change. So that's where this would come in, because if we were to just keep instance duplicating them, eventually they will slightly decrease in lighting power. So this right here will keep them all consistent at the exact same power. Then we have double-sided. Now, if you look here, here is our light, and on the opposite side, we don't see any light, right? Because it's not emitting. Here we can turn on double-sided. Now it's emitting light from both sides of the plane. Okay, so that's what double-sided is for. Next will be our distribution, which is also a very useful, it's basically literally like it says, it's distributing how much of the power is being evenly dispersed on to this. But I also use this a lot when we start to bring in gobos or light, like if you bring in a gradient map. Matter of fact, let's try to see if we can hook in a gradient map here. So I've added in a gradient generator, which basically does what it says. It generates gradient. And then I added on a 3D transform here to scale this. You can see here what's happening in the light there. So literally this is allowing me to, and look at our lighting pattern here. It's being affected. This is very useful for, again, trying to make like the light to have a little bit of a soft pull off there, or a soft little fade off. This is a great way to do that. Again, you'll need to put a projection on it to make it stick here. Now you can see there it is. Now it's stuck to there. And it's just a really cool way, especially when you start doing like product renders and you don't want the light to be so harsh. This is where you will plug it into the distribution. And you can also plug in gobos here into the distribution. Now you can see here I added in like a gobo, basically a grayscale image, added in one of my little grayscale gorilla gobos assets here. And again, I don't have the projection set just that properly, but I just want to show you quickly here. And you notice we don't see the pattern being put down on the ground here. One thing that you got to take note is we need to go to the light. Once we go over here to the light, the size is still very big. So if we bring this size down and we bring it very small, now we can see we're getting the gobo pattern here on there. That's what the pattern looks like, right? Again, I will need to play with the proper projection to get that to play right. So I'm not going to go through that at the moment. But here is just a quick and easy way how we can get the gobos to project onto the ground like that. So again, using the size is basically going to allow us to do the focus. And then again, if I do scale it up, it will change the brightness of that. And if you don't like that, again, that's where you check the surface brightness. Now we need to come in here and crank up our wattage there and even go higher, right? But I think it's a little bit easier for me to control it by the size. It depends on the person, your workflow. So that is how we can do that. Now, the next thing also in here, let me go ahead and kill all of this. I'm going to go back here and go to emission, and then we're going to bring in a blackbody emission, and this is exactly what it says. Blackbody emission. If you do not know what blackbody means, that is basically the scale that is used to measure the color of light. Okay, so right now 6500, and everything is extremely blown out. Let me set this back to 1. So this is literally going to control the blackbody emission controls the temperature of the light. Right now we're at 6,500. I can go down to 3,500. They get a little bit more warmer light. We can go to 2,500. I use this all the time. Like, I rarely use the texture emission because I like to have real world specs, real world things happening in my scene, and with the lights especially, I use real world, the blackbody emission, and use that here. We can go down all the way, I think, to 200, 500. 500 is the lowest, and I think about 7,500. I don't know what the max is there. Let's go 8,000. Yeah, it keeps going. 10,000. So you can go pretty high, right? Also, we do have on this one normalize. See what that's basically doing there. We do have our surface keep instant power double-sided. Then we just have this extra one here for our temperature. Then we have distribution again. Now sample rate, which I didn't talk about on the other one, this gets a little bit more advanced, but this, what I think in the past, it has to do with how much the render is going to give importance to that light. Okay, let me break it down the exact. Hang on. Okay, so here we go. Thanks to my handy chat GPT Octane bot. Basically, the sample rate adjusts the probability of light source being sampled during the render. So check it out. A higher sample rate means Octane will sample that light more often, which can result in less noise around the light, but might increase render times. So it's like what I was saying, it's basically going to give priority to this light when it comes to rendering. Now, you know, scenarios where this might come in handy. Let's say you have a lamp and it's like a very small, you know, light here, very tiny, and it's just a little bit noisy around it. Well, we can tell Octane, hey, I want you to prioritize this a little bit more than you would this light. And that's where the sample rate will come in here. We'll increase this or we can decrease. So we can decrease this light and maybe increase this light to help reduce noise around that light. And that's what the sample rate is for. Next, we have our light pass ID, which is basically what it says, extremely powerful. We can control the light pass ID. So for example, if I give this light a light pass ID of 2, and then let's take this light here and change its color. So now what I have is, I have them separate, right? They're basically going to be light pass 1 and light pass 2, especially when you export out lighting or you're doing render passes. You can, light ID will be 1, this will be this in that pass. Light 2 will be in its own pass. But it also comes in handy, for example, like this ground. Maybe we want this light, but we don't want it to show up on here. So if I do is I click on my plane, if I click over here, scroll down, here is our light pass mask. Okay, well, this had an ID of 2. If I click on 2, there it is. It's still emitting light. Look at the side of my guy's pants, but it's not showing up on this plane because we don't want it to. We vice versa, we can turn that off. Maybe I don't want it to show up on his pants leg. I click 2. Now it takes it away, but we still get all the splash light happening down here on the ground. So that's how we can control our passes, basically with light. Same here. If we come up here to the top, this one has a light pass ID of 1. If I come over here so we come back over here, we tick our 1. Now we don't see it, but look, we still see it casting on top of his head. So that is our light passes. And then again, these can be accessed in your AOVs. If you come over to your AOVs, let me just quickly show you how to access that too. Come over here, I will go to render AOVs, which we'll get into in another video, but I quickly want to show you how they're accessible in your passes. If I click on AOV, when I click here, and then if I come to light, here it is, light AOVs, and there it is, there's light 1, and there's light 2. Basically, now I can have this, and it'll be exported out in its own pass if I was using EXRs. So then next, also on this node, and also on the texture node, bring it over quickly here, so you can see, we do also have these visibility options here. So at the moment here, we can say we want this light to be visible on anything that has diffuse. Now I turned it off. Anything that has diffuse is not going to be visible on, but it will be visible in the specular, scatter, shatter, all these other ones, but it won't be visible in the diffuse. Same thing here. If I want to take away anything that has specular on it, here we go. We turn off specular. Now look, it's not, we see the panel, but we don't see the light emitting from there, right? And then again, if we had scattering volume, it wouldn't be visible in the scatter value. Transmission, same thing here. And then don't cast a shadow. Now look, there goes our shadow is turned away, and then don't do it. So that's basically everything off, right? So that's another way that you can control your lights. Again, if we don't want this light to show up, hey, I don't want this to show up in my okay, well, let's just turn that off in the specular. And then I don't want it to cast a shadow. Okay, now it's not casting a shadow, but we're still getting the light there. So that's our other options here on our lights here. So if you guys want to watch more of these videos down below, check the link for my Blender Octane course. It's in my Blender Octane community. There you can get immediate access. And for the next 7 days, I'll knock $5 off. So jump on that, get in there, finish watching some more of these videos, and get access to the newest videos as soon as they are finished cooking from me. Patrick LeVar, catch you guys in the next one. Take a look at this video. Peace.